thanks for your support, Jason. I appreciate yours and Carrie's support and your whole network. It's really been very beneficial to me and a whole lot of others. I encourage everyone to use your resources that you have. But thanks, Jason.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Show with Jason Hartman. You're about to learn a new slant on investing, some exciting techniques, and fresh new approaches to the world's most historically proven asset class that will enable you to create more wealth and freedom than you ever thought possible. Jason is a genuine self-made multimillionaire who's actually been there and done it. He's a successful investor, lender, developer, and entrepreneur who's owned properties in 11 states, had hundreds of tenants, and been involved in thousands of real estate transactions. This program will help you follow in Jason's footsteps on the road to your financial independence day. You really can do it. And now, here's your host, Jason Hartman, with the complete solution for real estate investors.
Welcome to episode 1129. This is Jason Hartman. Thank you so much for joining me today as we are on the eve of the holiday of love. Yes, Valentine's Day. I don't know why we're making such a big deal out of that this year, but, well, I guess we are because we have a sale tied to Valentine's Day, a sale you will love. You know, years ago, we used to do something called Frugal Friday, where we would offer a discount, not every Friday, but on lots of Fridays, on various products or events that we're hosting and so forth. And people asked that we bring that back. So, hey, who doesn't love a deal? I love a deal. Doesn't matter how much money you have. It's always nice to get a deal. You know, it makes you feel good that you stuck it to the man, right? So stick it to us. Take advantage of our Valentine's Day sale tomorrow, where you can get half off the Meet the Masters recordings. And that'll be from last year's Meet the Masters. They'll be half price tomorrow, Valentine's Day, and tomorrow only. So you just got one day to buy them. That'll be a gift you love. And I've got Adam here with me today as we talk for a moment before we get to our guest. Adam, how you doing?
Doing great today. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you back on the show. We want to talk about apartments and a little more about that. I talked about it the other day, but it's interesting how the makeup of the apartment renter demographic is changing, isn't it?
That it is.
But the apartment renter demographic is really becoming a higher end demographic, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, a lot of people are going for that upper echelon and the apartment builders obviously know that because that's the primary area that's being built out at the moment.
Right. So they are probably appealing to baby boomers who are empty nesters and, giving up the big house and want to have a little freer lifestyle. They're also looking for just the more affluent renter in general that in the past would have probably gravitated towards homeownership, but we all have talked about many times how America is becoming much more of a renter nation than it ever has been in history. Well, at least modern history, I should say. So, yeah, it really is interesting how that's changing. But would this possibly lead to a glut? For example, if we have two intersecting things where we've got all this new supply of high-end apartments coming online, and then the recession we're all waiting for does hit. What are we going to see, Adam?
Well, right now, according to CoStar, there are about 650,000 units of apartments being built right now. And of those, about half of them are in downtown or central business district areas. And 80% of the 650,000, so 520,000 of them, are going to be in the top 10% of the market rents. So if you're looking at 520,000 out of 650,000, if our economy goes down 15, 20% in a recession, those apartments, not nobody, but probably at least half of your audience that is looking for those homes are going to look at the next tier down.
Yeah,
it's new, that's great, but if my choice is, hey, my job may disappear, especially if it's in a downtown area, like let's say I'm in a tech sector, and I think, hey, all the tech jobs are leaving.
Right.
Do I want to get this new $8,000 a month apartment or this older, not quite as nice, $6,000 a month apartment? I know which way I would head.
Right. Well, that actually leads to a question. I don't know if you're just sort of using those numbers as an example, but did CoStar, in the article you're reading, did they give a number? Like, what do they consider to be high-end rent, high-end apartments? Now, I would think that would be, $3,500 to $4,000 a month. I mean, of course, it depends on the city. Obviously, in New York City, that gets you nothing. Gets you a closet.
It's even worse than that.
Yeah. Okay.
They're saying the average Class A apartment is about $1,800 a month.
Okay.
And the average Class B is about $1,300 a month. So these ones that are being built in downtown, you're not at least in Austin, and I assume in Florida, $1,800 a month for a really nice apartment isn't going to get you very far.
Oh, no, it's not going to get you very far at all. I mean, I just looked at some apartments near where I just purchased my home here in Florida, and I thought I'd check out the rental market and see what they're offering. And I mean, you get a tiny little apartment for $1,800 a month. I think it technically was a one bedroom, but the square footage is like ridiculously small. I mean, it was, I want to say 790 square feet or something like that. I don't remember. And I already tossed the price list, but going up to about $3,000 a month, you still don't get very much. And, these apartments were definitely considered Class A. They would rank that way. They're not high rise though. And I didn't think they had very nice design or amenities really. They were, nice enough, but, and they were new. It's a new complex, but yeah, I think, we're really going to see the apartment thing overbuilt. This always happens in every cycle. It just always works out that way. So, but it's interesting because our guest today is going to talk about his rental app and some best practices for that. It's just a short interview. I just thought it was interesting. And another movement toward the empowered investor and the self-management opportunity, which, folks, I got to tell you, every day, one of the most frustrating things in our business is, well, there are many frustrating things, but one is competitors who lie. Two is competitors who steal your intellectual property, which is really annoying. But I guess it's kind of a form of flattery too. They say imitation, right?
It's an expensive form of flattery.
It's an expensive form of flattery, but yeah, I'd rather be flattered in other ways than people ripping off my creations. But it's the property managers, right? And I just want to create an audience of, tens or hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of empowered investors who they can use managers if they want, and at least they know what they're doing so that they keep that management relationship in check, or they can self-manage, and they have the power to do either one. And that's really one of my big passions in this business. Is, many years ago, that was the theme of one of our Meet the Masters events. We always have a theme every year. This year, it's the big, boring, and extremely profitable idea. Extremely, I threw in there, but the big, boring, profitable idea. And we're going to talk about that. You don't know what that is yet, folks, but it's coming at Meet the Masters. But, several years ago, we started with the empowered investor, right? That still very much lives for us. Having people do that. But we're getting a little off topic, which is nothing new here. We do this often. Anything more about the apartments?
Well, I have one anecdotal thing for you based on what you've talked about with the apartments and with kind of being overbuilt. I have a friend here in town in Austin who is a real estate agent, and he recently posted a property on his Facebook page, and he said it was an investment property. This is a 1,700 square foot home that's on 2/5 of an acre in a decent part of Austin, but not great. And it's not zoned for multifamily or anything of that nature.
Right.
And he's calling it an investment property. And this thing is selling for $800,000.
Yeah, an investment.
And I simply posted on there, you and I have very different definitions of an investment property.
Yeah, good
and
point.
all of these, a whole bunch of people were interested in it and saying, is this zoned for commercial? Or is this zoned for multifamily? And he said, no, not right now. And somebody said, well, that's way too much money. And his response, whenever I read it, just told me we're either at the top or very close to the top for the high-end market. Because he said...
Don't tell me.
What
Wait,
he said,
let me guess. He said something about it's going to be worth much more soon. He's in it.
No, he didn't say that. His response was that when they said, is it overpriced? He said, maybe, but I know I'll get it.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. Yeah, it's crazy. Ridiculous.
So
yeah.
Whenever I read that, I was just, oh my goodness, this is what people say at the top. This is the, greater fool theory that you've talked about in the past.
Exactly.
And then I started thinking about your theme.
It's a different mentality, right? Yeah.
And then I started thinking about the theme for Meet the Masters, the big boring idea. And I started listening to my podcast, and it was talking about today's market and, yesterday's market and all of this. And I thought to myself, why did I wait so long to get into real estate? Because I don't want to spend the rest of my life listening to market updates that talk about the Dow went up 0.1%, the Dow went up 1%, and worrying about my retirement for the rest of my life.
Right.
I was like, I don't care if my real estate investment property is devalued by 1% this coming year, because I'm not planning on selling it right now. And that's not, even if it doesn't sell for way more than I bought it, I'm still making money in so many other ways. And it was just kind of a crystallizing week, I would say, as I did this.
I would totally agree. Anybody who thinks having your mood determined by the stock market on a daily basis or maybe an hourly basis, that's just no way to live. That I have never understood that. I remember it really hit me one time when I was in Newport Beach. I was having lunch quite a while ago. It was maybe 2003 or 4 with an executive with a big real estate company who was trying to buy my real estate company. He took me to lunch and was chatting me up. And on the way out of the restaurant, there was a TV in kind of the bar area, and he stopped and wanted to see what the market was doing. Here's a real estate company guy, right? But he was all concerned about what the Dow was doing and what the S&P was doing and the Russell 2000. And I'm like, that's just no way to live. It's just silly. It's not investing. It's just gambling. And that's one of the problems with real estate is that one of these ways that these companies like Facebook, all these technology platforms, and the casinos use to make you addicted is a technique called variable rewards. Okay. And the example is when you pull a slot machine, the reward is variable every time because you don't know what you're going to get. And that type of thing makes us addicted, right? The variable reward. It's one of the addiction creation strategies, right? And I guess, when we look at the nature of any addiction, when you do whatever the activity is, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever your vice is, right? And we've all got a few vices, okay? No one is without some vice, okay? It might just be addicted to being right, or or temper, or anything, right? Or OCD, right? My housekeeper's here right now. She has OCD. I love her. Every time she leaves, my house is so organized. It's beautiful. And so the variable reward thing is beautiful for the stock market, for Wall Street, because there are so many variable rewards all the time, right? And you can see why that strategy helps investors, or really gamblers and speculators, become addicted to it, right? The variable reward, you can see it right there. It's a strategy, it's a technique. And all of the Wall Street financial media, CNBC, et cetera, they know how to push the buttons. They know what makes us addicted. That's, it's a great example. Yeah, good point.
And then you have I was listening to other shows, and they was talking about, it was a lot of the financial independence and people talking about the 4% drawdown on their thing. And I was like, well, the 4% will work in some cases.
You better explain what you mean. So that means you want to live, the idea is when you retire, you want to be able to live on a 4% drawdown. And ideally, you're going to get more than 4% return on your wealth, okay?
Yeah. And that works as long as...
And so you're gonna be ahead, or at least be even, and never spend your principal, right?
Right, and that works as long as you don't retire at the wrong time. Like my father-in-law retired. They thought they had enough, and then this was in 2007 or 2006, 2007, then suddenly their portfolio cut in half.
Yeah.
If you're drawing down on 4% and suddenly your 100% becomes 50%, you can't draw down 4% and live.
Well, and let me just make a caveat to that. You said it's fine as long as you don't retire at the wrong time. But let me tell you something, folks. You're hopefully going to live long enough after retirement into the wrong time. Okay, meaning that there will be cycles during your retirement, right? And or just deals that go bad. And the one that comes to mind is my ex-girlfriend. Her in-laws, her mother and father-in-law invested with Bernie Madoff. And I think she said they had something like $2.7 million with him or something. And at least at the time she told me the story, I haven't asked her for an update on it, they lost everything. Now they might have gotten a little bit of that back with the unwinding the government did and, selling off assets, but
it was nowhere near 2.7.
I'm sure it was pennies on the dollar. Kevin Bacon, we've all heard the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? He's married to, I think, Keira Knightley, right? They basically lost everything with Bernie Madoff. The only thing they didn't lose was literally the money in their checking account and their home. They had a home with, equity in it. That's it. It was like, okay, here's 2 famous actors and actresses, right? And they got to go back to work, better get another movie gig, right? So, yeah.
And if you really want to live on 4%, you can find a single family home that'll return 4% cash on cash pretty much any day of the week.
That's going to be pretty darn easy in our world. Thankfully it will be. Okay. Hey, Adam, we got to get to our guest and we'll have you back we got you coming back a few more times next week to discuss some things. But what didn't we announce? Jason Hartman University, okay? Now, when I say that, that means 2 different things, and I just want to explain. There is, we call it JHU. There is a JHU live event that we do about once a year, maybe twice. And then there is a JHU online portal that you can join and become a member of, and it's really inexpensive. I think it's like $279 per year. What I want to tell you about that is that you should look in there because there is, before you sign up for Meet the Masters, you can get a discount on your ticket. As the price crept up from the early birds, we started offering a discount code in there. So there is a promo code. Just go to jasonhartman.com, and at the bottom of the page, you'll see that you can log into the JHU membership portal, and you will see right there a discount for Meet the Masters, okay? And it's a nice discount, so make sure you do that. And Meet the Masters info is jasonhartman.com/masters. That's coming up quick. I think we've got, about 45 days away. So I hope you'll join us for that. If you have not purchased a ticket already, get one. A lot of people coming are making family vacations out of it. Newport Beach or Anaheim, Disneyland, whatever. Go to San Diego, very close by, SeaWorld, etc. Legoland. You can make a spring break family vacation out of it. And I know many of you are doing that. You're bringing your kids, your nanny, the in-laws. Many of you have told me that. So we look forward to seeing you there. jasonhartman.com/masters. Adam, let's go to our guest.
There's one more thing we need to do before we say that.
Okay.
In terms of deadlines, if you bought your ticket before the hotel was announced, you only have about 1 week left of the block.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the discount room block. Thank you for that. And so you definitely want to get your ticket so you can get your hotel room. And by the way, if you bought your tickets and didn't get your hotel room reserved, please make sure you do that. Upon registration, as soon as you register, the hotel information is displayed on the thank you page, and then it's also emailed to you as well. So you'll have the discount room block link and everything for that. So, Adam, now we ready?
Now, let's get rent ready.
Okay, let's get rent ready, and that is our guest today. And we're going to talk about a little self-management tool for you. So here we go. It's my pleasure to welcome Ryan Barone. He is CEO and founder of RentRedi. Ryan, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot, Jason. Happy to be here.
It's good to have you on the show. Where are you located?
I'm located in New York.
Fantastic. Well, I think it is long overdue, and I think you'll agree with me, that unlike other applications for various financial services, tenants, when they shop for a rental property, they have to apply at each different place, and they get their credit report run over and over. Their confidential financial information is exposed over and over. Landlords have inconsistent processes. The tenants end up paying multiple application fees. And while this might seem like a good thing for landlords in a sense, because they can make some money off all these application fees, in a way, it really inhibits the market. I think there's a bigger, broader picture to look at. But, tell us how you came to do this and what you think about my comments.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it right on the head. I actually started from the tenant side myself, which was kind of how this all got started. I really went through that application process looking for my first apartment and had a lot of trouble. And at first thought it was me, which, it might have also been. But as I did it a few more times, I came to realize that the process itself was really quite difficult. And the issue was that there wasn't really the right tool on both the tenant side and the landlord side. And a lot of those inefficiencies of repeatedly entering information on the tenant side, like you were talking about there, as well as, a host of other things that landlords that I started working with started to point out to me that could really be better to help both them and their tenants.
Okay, well, the listeners are investors, and they're obviously looking to have their properties exposed to the greatest number of tenants to achieve the highest rental value. What's in it for them? I mean, I can definitely see how this is a convenience for tenants, for sure. And like I said at the beginning, I do think what's in it for them in the big picture is that it's such a hassle to go look for a rental property and apply at all these different places. It keeps people from doing it, just because of the mere hassle factor. So there's a lot of friction there that is removed by apps like yours. And there are, of course, competing apps out there like we talked about. Cozy offers something like this, and there are others. Talk to us from the landlord perspective a little bit more.
Right. So one of the big things is we're really mobile focused. So for a landlord, not being tied down to a desk, but being able to do everything as well from their phone or a tablet as they can from a computer. And then in that, removing a lot of those inefficiencies. So whether you're out and about running around, like a lot of, real estate investors tend to be doing, or you're at a desk, you can, for example, if you get a maintenance request come through on the system, a tenant can take a video of that on their phone in the RentRedi app. They can send that over. You can see a video of how bad it is. If you need to get out of bed at 11 p.m. and go over there, or if they can throw a ball under it for the night and you can deal with it in the morning. And for landlords, that really becomes a huge benefit to them in that realm, where that's just one thing on notifications, but even on the applications. If you have a tenant that is entering their information in this and we save it for them so they don't have to keep re-entering that over and over and over again, when they come to view your apartment, they already have all of that in there. Or if they've pre-qualified, we pre-fill that on their application, cutting out more of that time that you're waiting for them to apply and actually come and view your apartment.
Okay, so does RentRedi work with property managers or strictly self-managers? We have been on a push in recent years to help people learn how to self-manage their properties long distance. I never thought it could be done until it happened to me by accident about, 8-10 years ago, where one of my property managers on a property 2,000 miles from my home got out of the business, and I didn't get around to hiring a new one. And the first of the month, a check shows up with a nice note from the tenant saying, hey, the old manager says he's out of the business. I should send the money to you. Here's the money. And I just ended up self-managing a property I had never seen and still have never seen and still own with a tenant that I've never met or spoken with from a long distance. And it was a great experience. And now I've done it many times, and many of our clients have. You can save the property management fees. A lot of times you'll do a much better job managing your property than the manager will, sadly, or, positively. I don't know which way you look at it. And the other part of it is that many times, and this is a common misconception, people will say, well, look, I want to be as passive as possible in terms of being an investor. I don't have a lot of time to deal with tenants. Interestingly, what we've found is that it takes less time to deal directly with a tenant than it does to put a third party with ulterior motivations in the middle of the equation. I sort of liken it to this, Ryan. It's kind of like the government, right? I'm not a fan of a lot of regulation. I'm not a fan of minimum wage laws, for example. If someone wants to work and someone wants to hire them, what business is it of the government to get in the way of that, right? The same is kind of true in any third-party relationship. Now, sometimes a third party helps. Sometimes they get in the way. And a lot of times, property managers just get in the way. Regardless of cost or time, it's actually less time to not have the property manager, which is counterintuitive. So is your app working with managers, or is it strictly self-managers, or either one?
There are some of both. It's really designed more for the landlord that wants to do it themselves, but we found almost by chance that some property managers, like to use it as well. But I do agree with you in a lot of ways there that a lot of people who own the property, it's their baby, It's almost like any other business that you're starting and doing yourself. It's kind of exciting in a lot of ways to be able to do it yourself. Mm-hmm. The issue is just having the tools there to make it possible.
Yeah, and now there are so many awesome tools like your app that really make this stuff a lot easier than it used to be in the old days. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the application component. What about the ongoing management? Like tenants can submit a repair request right through the app, and then the landlord so there's no phone calls, right? Tell us a little bit more about those functionalities.
Right. So I think one of the most amazing things about having the access to that app and all of the things that translates to is, like you talked about. So you said you had that long-term rental, not having to jump on the phone to say, hey, you're late on rent, but to be able to, in the app, it tracks, or on the landlord side, rather, it tracks in real time anything that's late and filters it for you automatically. So you're not even running a report for that. You're just seeing that at any given time. And if you can send a notification to the tenants in the unit that comes up as a push notification on the phone, almost like a text message, which is a lot higher open rate. And it takes them right into the app, right where they'd pay. And so for the tenants there, it cuts out a lot of the hoops that need to be jumped through and a lot of the time that a landlord is getting on the phone and calling. And on the other side, since we're tracking that through the app, even if the bank takes a day or two to process the actual funds, we're able to track in real time for the landlord that it has actually been triggered. So there is no, check is in the mail excuse anymore where you're waiting to see if it's going to show up or not. You can see instantly, which cuts out a lot of your management time there.
Fantastic. Okay, so more of the functionality of ongoing management. So it processes payments, it handles repair requests. Tell us more about those things or anything else.
Sure. It also has, so pre-qualifications is kind of one of the pretty unique things that we had in the system. And I have to say, I have to credit a landlord that actually brought it up to us that said, I had a lovely couple come and look at my apartment. I really liked them. But as soon as they gave me some sort of financial information, I knew there was no way that I could rent them. And I wanted to at that point. And I'd taken the time to even show them the unit myself. If there's anything that you could give me up front, it would save me a ton of time with this. And so that's really where we created the pre-qualification, which is a quick 10 questions. And it gives a landlord an idea before the person comes and rents if it's someone that they might be able to rent to, so that they can show it to more quality leads and spend the time on those people. And the nice thing there is that ties perfectly into then the application, where then that auto fills into their application and is sent in, and they can even run tenant screens right within the app, where we, again, pull all of that and remove all of that, duplicate entry where you'd be copying something over from an application to a tenant screening, or the tenant and then goes and verifies their identity right in the app. So it's a soft pull. They pay for it. You see all of that online. You don't have stacks of paper. So once they're then in that unit, kind of the other two pieces besides the pre-qualifications and applications and the maintenance and rent are really the notification side of things, which is really helpful, and tracking the properties. So, if you have something becoming vacant in the next 60 days even, we can show you so you know that you need to maybe reach out to them to have them resign or go out and list that to get someone new in here,
Okay, good. So it notifies them of an upcoming vacancy. Is that what you mean?
Right. So, yeah, absolutely. So it tracks in real time for them any upcoming vacancies. And then on the notification side, the landlord can actually trigger notifications. So say you need to shut off gas on one morning. You could send out a notification to even multiple units saying, hey, there's going to be no gas from 8 to 10 a.m. on Monday. And you're not going around posting that on doors, and you have an audit trail for yourself as well.
Sure.
This has been sent out.
Okay, good. Good stuff. Anything else people should know? And maybe it's not about your app. I mean, you have, I guess you have users in 40 states now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So it's catching on. It's relatively new. This space is pretty exciting, in my opinion, for landlords and investors because it's really empowering them. We strongly believe in empowerment over here from the individual level. But maybe anything else, and it doesn't have to be related to the app. It could be if you want, but just general best practices or thoughts on the marketplace.
I mean, just in general, I think that there's a lot of technology that's available now and becoming more and more, even not just in the property management, but just anything related to your rentals, even if it's the marketing side or anything at all. That there's a lot of access there to tools that can help kind of reduce your time without really increasing kind of the costs associated with it that even 5 or 10 years ago weren't available. So I think one of the most amazing things is on the landlord side is just to be, looking around for what's new, what's out there, and how you can make it easier on yourself, because I think there's countless new ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other apps or tools you want to mention besides your own that can help landlords?
I mean, I think some of the great ones are on the listing side as well, in the, Zillow and Trulia, Hot Pads, all of those, where you can put it out instead of sticking a sign on your stoop, especially if you're trying to do a long distance rental like you were talking about earlier. I think that, there's more and more by the day for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there definitely are, just simple stuff like Google Maps, looking at satellite views of properties and seeing all of that stuff. There's so many great tools out there, and that's just a super basic one that's been around for a long time. But this whole new space of payment processing for tenants and apps that qualify tenants and so forth, it's a pretty neat space. And then you combine this with the smart home functionality that's going on. I think it gets really interesting. Electronic locks, thermostats, monitoring of all sorts. Really convenient and, nice amenities that people can offer to tenants, but also they're amenities for landlords, really, because they keep their properties safe and so forth. So, just a lot of good stuff going on in the industry. As I always say, it's an amazing time to be alive, and the technology really is amazing. Tell people where they can find you. I assume it's just RentRedi.com?
Yep, it's RentRedi. Startups always have to spell things wrong.
Of course they do. Yes, to be cool and to get a URL. So it's RentRedi, and the ready is an I instead of a Y at the end. Okay, so
yes, and no A, REDI.
Oh, REDI. Okay, got it. Okay, good. RentRedi.com, and then of course the mobile app is available. I would encourage landlords to take a look at it. Quite fascinating. And any closing thoughts? Yeah,
I would just say, I really encourage landlords to take advantage of all that technology at their hands, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Maybe even help out some of the landlords listening as well and their tenants.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Join us March 23rd and 24th for the 2019 Meet the Masters of Income Property.
Let's break this down and look at some of the strengths of income property as an asset class.
I found that this event is really helpful because I'm totally a newbie to real estate investment, and so I picked up so much information.
One of the great things about it is that it's so fragmented, right? Embrace the fragmentation.
I've actually been learning a lot about tax benefits to real estate, and I've been investing actually well over 10 years now, and I learned a lot of new things today.
The other advantage of this weekend is networking. Meeting new property managers, meeting new area specialists, and seeing the product they have to offer. That changes year by year.
Register now at jasonhartman.com/masters.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.